Howdy Hexers, I'm Mokog. Welcome to the main HexTCG channel. Today we're going to be talking about Hexonomics. So if you are familiar with HexTCG or you're absolutely brand new to the game, I want to go ahead and welcome you today. We're going to be taking a look at the economy side of Hex for about the first 20 to 30 minutes, and then we're going to go in and do a little bit of a few limited games, and eventually what today's focus is, we'll also be doing ladder as this series continues. But what we're going to focus on as a topic today is we're going to be looking forward to what's coming with ladder. So the ladder itself is actually something that looks like it's going to be really awesome. It is going to be a way to track one's limited games that you do in limited events, as well as constructed games that you do specifically within a ladder queue. And this is going to be something that is fantastic for the game. I really think it's going to do quite a bit for our PvP side of the game. And the biggest thing is I think it's going to do an awful lot of work for constructed. So one of the things that happens when you start having an increased focus on constructed games is you actually see a lot of market shifts that occur. And one of the things we like to look at HexHunter a lot is what is going on with the auction house. So the auction house is this great tool. It may not necessarily always be the best tool in the world when you're brand new to it, but when you get used to it, the tips and tricks of having to use it, it is a great tool for making sure that you can get any of the particular cards that you need. As well as, fun things like equipments, chests, packs, mercenaries, all sorts of cool things. Anything that's tradable in Hex, you can generally put onto the auction house. And because of that, almost all of our prices are really set by the demand for those types of cards. So right now, we have a lot of folks who do enjoy constructed, but until we have another big set of PvP events like the Hex's 100k event or the qualifiers or something like the 5 shards tournament, we're not going to see another big boost and shift in what happens here on the auction house. We'll have people's daily playing habits. And most daily playing habits are actually determined by limited events. And that puts a lot of cards onto the market. And if we wanted to go check and see how certain types of cards are doing right now, generally you would look at your rarity, you'd pick your set, and you'd start searching and you'd be able to find a lot of really fun stuff. And then you'd sort things a little bit here, see if things were going for gold, see what's going for the low end on platinum, do all of these great sorts. Now one of the things we see is that we have a lot of different cards here selling at under 100 platinum, which is fantastic. These are cards that are really fun to play with on PvE. Sometimes you can pull them off and construct it in an interesting way. But a lot of folks are putting on all of their extra legendaries, all of their extra rares on the auction house, so that they can continue doing limited drafting. But what's going to happen when we have the ladder? We're still going to have the limited side of the ladder. That's not going to change things too much because that's kind of like what it is now. You enjoy limited, you might have a little bit more push for limited. That should put a few more cards on as people sell their cards to keep playing in limited events. What I'm really interested in and what I can't wait to see is what's going to happen when we have the constructed side of ladder come in as well. Because we're going to start seeing a big push on cards that are considered playable that may not necessarily be super focused on now. Well, a lot of folks, while they're trying to climb that ladder, are going to be trying new, different, and interesting strategies because there's a lot of different fun decks that we can do here. And one card I think we might see a really fun boost in is William Rowan. Now, right now, this card has actually been pushing down recently. Early on, he was selling upwards of 1,000 platinum. He's pushed down towards 600. Now he's even pushing down here as low as 425 platinum. So William Rowan as a card himself is really cool. He's a great diamond aggressive card. His shards make him a little bit more mono diamond because he's got 2 threshold here, but a 2 for 3/2 that he ends up creating a 3 for 5/5 steadfast swift strike wolf that happens to give William Rowan's swift strike and double damage themselves. So he is a fantastically aggressive card, and every time he attacks, the Rowans in the deck go up 5 steps. So it's absolutely fantastic. And then on top of that, whenever a Rowan attacks, troops you control get +1/+1 this turn on top of all of that. So it's absolutely awesome. He's a little fragile when he starts off, but you could easily see him fitting in something like in a diminutive diamond deck that's going around. So there's a really good chance if that deck takes off, something really aggressive, could do really well on ladder, we might see the price start spiking up. So that's a great theory and hypothesis, right? The question is how would we measure something like that? How do we track something like that? If every time you want to answer a question like that, do you have to always go into the auction house and see what things are selling for currently? Well, one of the things that's really great about Hex is that we actually, the Hex itself publishes its sales auction house data. It's absolutely anonymous. You're only seeing transactional data, but every time one of these cards sells, it gets logged and it gets put onto a daily archive that's set out for fan sites and those of interest. Like if you happen to be like a full-fledged economist and you want to see how game economies are working, it's a great data set spread out for almost 18 months worth of data at this point. And it's just straight auction house sales, things like the legendaries, the cards, equipment, all sorts of great data is there. And there's a fantastic tool for tracking this data as well. So the tool for tracking this data that's done here on the fan side is actually called Hex Price. Hex Price is put together by several folks, and it's a really cool site. And we're seeing where the data is right here, and we're looking specifically at Armies of Myth items right now. So, we decided we wanted to run over here to the general dashboard. They have a lot of great basic statistics for people to look at. So, we can see that Reese the Crust Crawler has been doing amazing fairly recently. People are pushing that up. One of those, the median price. So the median, not the super far end, but not the super short end. The price that's kind of in the center, is about 3,100 plat. That's quite a bit of plat. You can do quite a few drafts with that. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do to when you're watching what's going on with hex prices is to see what things are moving up, what things are moving down. It kind of gives you an idea of, if you have a couple extra, let's see, Zentoth's Malice, for instance. So Zentoth's Malice just recently has moved up in price. There's a good chance maybe some folks decide to start building some spider decks. Maybe we'll start seeing those in Constructed Gauntlet. You can make a lot of fun theories out of some of the data that you find here. And it's just a really fantastic tool. So let's say we wanted to see percentage movements up. We can see the cards that are going down as well. All sorts of great data here. We can see things that are the most popular. We see that set 4 packs are selling in the auction house super often. People are looking at Rare Stardust. That's amazing. We'll see a lot of extended art cards coming up. There's still a lot of folks interested in Adventure Zone 1 packs. These can only be gotten from the PvE, and this tells us that people are, they're only selling for about 3 platinum. I bet a bunch of those trades are probably also in gold. And we're also seeing a lot of trades for set 3 booster packs. For card-wise, we're seeing Fierce Warlords. Maybe we see a lot of aggressive Ruby decks in PvE. Maybe that's something that we're seeing in PvP. It's just a great storehouse of data, and understanding how to read this is absolutely fantastic. And another great spot is that you also get a look at the platinum to gold ratio. The way that this can be calculated can fluctuate from time to time. Right now we see that the 1 platinum to gold is about 140 gold based on Hex Price's measurement. I always advocate that if you are looking at trading your gold to platinum or platinum to gold, you want to do some pretty quick calculations yourself, kind of run to the auction house, see what people are doing it based on packs, pick a couple cards that you think are that would sell for platinum as well as gold. Give yourself an idea of really what it's worth at its current time in the auction house. Put a little time if you're going to do that trade, but if you want just a quick fast reference, like a baseline to look at, Hex Price is a great place to go here because you're getting an aggregate of the data. And one of the greatest things that we can do is we can also take a look at some basic general stats. Sometimes a line graph is one of the best ways that you can take a look at, and that's one of the fun things that we have here is that, we see that since 2015 we have a lot of activity going, and we see huge spikes of activity coming up, and we're seeing an increased amount of activity right now just kind of across the board for what's going on in Hex. So let's take our time horizon a little smaller. Let's come over for the last few relevant months. So, we had a lot of activity coming in. We had the 100K occurring around here in this early March time frame. And then we had a huge jump up occur as soon as we had set 4 come in. A lot of activity, a lot of prices increasing. What I expect coming forward on ladder is I expect a very similar pattern to what we see here. We'll see people going into a lull. We'll see people begin unloading cards, trying to sell. This pushes the market down a little bit. And then right when ladder is about to come out, people are going to make their buying decision like, okay, this is the deck I'm going to try ladder with first. This is what I want to play right now. And when people make those decisions, they buy. And, you know, it's based on when we buy things. It's our market. It's our hex. And with it being our hex, we're going to see a pattern just like this. Very similar to the Primal Dawn release pattern. So you're going to see a big spike up very quickly for some select sets of cards. And these are mostly going to be constructed playable cards. So when I say constructed playable, what is this really meaning? It means that if it seems super fun to play, but you can't start really creating an aggressive win strategy by turn 3 to turn 7, and that's a very broad horizon here, you know, allowing for aggressive mid-range and aggro decks, of course. You know, if it's not really enforcing a strategy at that point, it's not going to be a part of what's pushing up in this market push upwards. It's going to be cards like Runeer Hierophant, already a very amazing card. Things, you know, we'll see price spikes in what are currently known staple cards, but the real things to watch out for are the decks that have not been, the types of decks that we have not seen fully publicized yet, the stuff that we haven't seen on the articles, interesting, slightly nuanced play styles. You know, when those cards start going up, ones that you don't initially think fit the mold, but in the end, they have some sort of placing constructed, that is where we're going to see a lot of the big spikes. Now, this rising tide is going to lift all boats for a single reason, because we're going to have varied levels of players participating in ladder. Some may be at the first rungs for their initial set of play, but you know, you're going to have a set of decks that work well in that first rung, the second rung, the third rung, so on and so forth, until you start getting to the higher levels. And that's of course going to affect the magnitude of moves, but it's the biggest thing to remember is that if someone wants to run with it in constructed, if they think they've got a fun deck, maybe they're just a Johnny style of player, they love just having wacky things happen and they want to do it more in PvP, well, you know what? Ladder's going to have a lot of that too. And those kinds of cards, we're also going to see increases on volume. And this kind of stuff is super, super important when you are on a limited budget, when you have a certain amount of resources available and you want to make the most of them. Understanding how those movements happen is one of the things Hexonomics likes to focus on. And we're going to be keeping an eye on when these things occur, how often they occur, and it's one of the biggest things that I think we can do for everyone is just watching and you know, shouting out how this activity can do best. One more thing we're going to cover before we do a little bit of Q&A and before we start up doing some limited, I want to focus on the value of a pack right now. I think this is really, really important when you're wanting to calculate something like effort value. You'll hear a lot of folks talk about effort value. You hear a lot of conversation about do you want to purchase a certain set of booster packs? Do you want to necessarily open primal packs? You know, when you start getting up and you've established your current collection, maybe you just won this awesome primal pack from your limited draft. You know, you got a couple packs from it, and boom, you've got this super special primal. Do you want to open it or do you want to sell it? How do you make that decision? I think this is something that we should go ahead and cover at this point because it's super crucial with all of our new players coming in. So what we see here, and we'll focus on, is we're looking at Primal Dawn prices, and we're looking at the prices for common, uncommon, rare, and legendary cards as an average median. So they've taken the medians of each of the cards and they've averaged those medians. So you're looking at an average of a middle value. You know, it's kind of a rough number. It's statistically relevant, but it's not necessarily deterministic. So what we see here is that, you know, a legendary could fetch you a really good price right now. 339 platinum, that is above the price of a standard pack. A rare is making up just under half the value of a store-purchased booster pack. If we're looking at the current price of what a pack will run on the auction house, let's take a look and see what a pack will run us on the auction house right now. So we're looking at a pack of Primal Dawn. A pack of Primal Dawn will run us roughly 170, we'll say 175, that's a little low. So we'll say 175 platinum on the auction house for a Primal Dawn pack right now. So the rare value of that is a little bit over half, 85 over 175. This is where calculators come in. Oh, thank goodness for calculators. So from the auction house, it's a little under half. So it's about 48% of the value is generally within your rare here. And then that's not too bad. But, you know, we also have uncommons that are pretty useful as well. You'll see these really a lot more prevalent in older sets because there are certain uncommons that take on a lot of value. Think like Chlorophilia, Ridge Raider, you know, really powerful uncommons in PvE that have cards that have just a lot of staying power that really make decks go. Those will often push up this value. And so if you pull a Chlorophilia and a Shards of Fate pack and you happen to pull a decent rare, just in those two cards you've made up the value of that pack. And then we know we have the commons. So if we calculated this up, you know, every one of those might be worth 1 plat, or in this case 1.7 plat. But you know, we get, I believe, 11 of those right off the top of my head. So your uncommons may be worth 18 plat, or your commons may be worth 18 plat. Your uncommons may be worth 20 plat. And if you take in your rare, what that tells you is that on average, really rough average, if you're opening a Primal Dawn booster pack, if you take that value to the auction house, most of the time you're going to wind up with about 102 platinum worth of cards that you can get. This is one of the reasons why you'll hear folks say cracking packs is not the best way for value. It's fun. We love things like chests, but even then, chests might get you 20 plat. So even if we add an additional 20 plat onto that, that takes us to just 122 platinum out of our cost of 175. You know, if you're just going to crack open a booster pack, you would want the value that comes out of that booster pack to be higher than what you put into it, preferably. And again, on average, on aggregate, that kind of thing. So what ends up happening, though, is that brand new packs tend to be low in that value early on because you're using them for limited. Sets are designed for being able to be played in limited as well as constructed, and it's constructed values that will boost the price of booster packs over time. But when you take a look at it like a Shard of Fate booster pack, where the average value of an uncommon is higher, the average value of those rares is getting higher, especially with ladder coming in. A lot of fantastic rares in Shards of Fate are going to be a lot more prominent. All of a sudden, that concept of should I open this pack gets a lot better. So when you're looking at those common cards, you're looking at those uncommons and those rares in general, you get a lot of fantastic information from those. And you can't really, you can't discount that information over time, because when we start taking a look at Shards of Fate packs themselves, you know, if you can get more than 173 platinum worth of value out of your Shards of Fate pack, then, you know, that's the time you crack it open. You can't use it in limited no more. There's not another way to win them. The only way to get them is to purchase them here from the auction house, you know, or to buy them directly from the store. What we will see happen the next time, and this is for the cycle of booster packs, at some point, Shards of Fate is going to rotate out of Constructed when the full rotation for Constructed gets implemented. And when that happens, these Shards of Fate booster packs will only be available on the auction house, and that you're going to see push prices up. And that's going to be a very interesting set that we have go on. But the only way you're going to know if it's a good value or not, whether to purchase and sell then, is to know now how we value our packs. And that's one of the things that I wanted to go ahead and share with everyone. So this early part of Hexonomics, this first 15, 20, 30 minutes, we do is going to be made available on YouTube here in a few days so that we can share it with everyone, as well as here on Twitch. So if you enjoyed this, please go ahead and like and subscribe on my channel on YouTube at HexHunter Mokog on YouTube. We're going to do a Q&A, and then we're going to jump into some limited after this. So, until next time, I'm Mokog. This is the Hex channel, and if you're seeing this on YouTube, this is HexHunter, and I will see y'all next time. And for everyone who is here, hi everybody.